The night sky tore apart with fire as the invasion began. The once quiet forest world lit up with burning trails of alien ships descending from the clouds. Villages on the ground were already running, screaming, hiding from the attackers who had come without warning. Amid the chaos, a young human girl was taken. Her captors dragged her through the trees, their metallic armor gleaming with strange alien symbols. She tried to fight, but her small arms were nothing against their strength. Fear tightened her chest, yet her eyes stayed wide open, taking in everything. She was not the type to give in, even if she was only a child. They stopped in a clearing. That was when the silence fell. The forest itself seemed to hold its breath. Her captors shifted uneasily, glancing into the shadows. Something moved. Not one thing, but many. Shapes, heavy and deliberate, stepping through the mist. The girl froze as she saw them. Wolves, but not the kind from old human tales. These were massive, their bodies made of something that looked like both fur and metal. Their teeth sharp like blades, their eyes glowing bright red as if fire burned inside them. The aliens swore in their guttural tongue and raised their weapons. The girl felt her heart hammer as the pack emerged fully into the clearing. At least 6 of them, each larger than a horse, their claws digging into the earth. They growled low, the sound vibrating in her bones. The aliens pushed the girl forward as if to distract the beasts. But the wolves did not leap on her. They did not tear her apart. Instead, their eyes fixed on her in unison, watching her with something deeper than hunger. One alien tried to fire, but the nearest wolf lunged, crushing him in its jaws before the weapon could fire. The other captors shouted in panic, but none dared to step closer. The girl stumbled back, her breath quick and sharp. She thought she was about to die. But the wolves closed in, slowly, surrounding her in a half circle. Their growls deepened, but not at her. At the aliens, her captors, shaken, ran into the forest, leaving her behind. That was when the largest wolf stepped forward. Its body gleamed like black steel, its eyes burning brightest of them all. It lowered its head, close enough that she could see the strange runes etched into its skull. The girl trembled, but did not run. Something inside told her that running was wrong. She stood still, meeting the beast's eyes. The wolf sniffed once, then circled her, brushing its cold metallic fur against her shoulder. She felt no pain, only a shock like static. The other wolves moved closer, their massive forms casting shadows over her small figure. For a moment, she was hidden completely inside their circle, protected. The girl realized then, these alien wolves were not here to kill her. They had chosen her. The impossible had begun. The clearing remained silent except for the sound of the wolves breathing. Their eyes burned like red fire, and their bodies shifted slightly, muscles tense, as if ready to strike at anything that moved. The young girl stood in the middle of them, her small frame trembling, yet strangely steady. Her kidnappers had fled into the forest, their screams echoing faintly in the distance. None of them dared to return. For the first time since she had been captured, the girl was alone except for the monstrous creatures that surrounded her. The largest wolf, the alpha, moved closer. Its paws pressed into the ground with a heavy weight, claws digging into the dirt. The creature towered above her, its head level with the low branches of the trees. Its teeth glistened in the dim light, sharp enough to rip through steel. The girl's breath came out in shaky bursts. Her instincts told her to run, to hide, to curl into the ground. But another voice inside whispered something else: stand still. Don't show fear. She remembered her father's old words from long ago, spoken in stories before bedtime. Animals see what's inside you. If you're weak, they strike. If you're strong, they pause. The alpha lowered its head until its burning eyes were only inches from hers. The girl swallowed hard, meeting its gaze. She expected to see only hunger, but there was something else. Something she could not name. The wolf let out a low rumble. Not quite a growl, not quite a snarl. A sound that seemed to vibrate in her bones. The other wolves followed, their voices joining in a strange rhythm. The sound was not random. It was almost like speech. The girl blinked. She didn't understand how, but she felt it. The sound wasn't just noise, it was reaching inside her head. The rhythm carried meaning, images, feelings. She closed her eyes, and for a moment, she saw flashes of something. Forests burning, humans running, wolves tearing apart soldiers in armor. And then her own face, her eyes snapped open in shock. The Alpha was still staring. It had shown her those visions. The girl took a step back, but the wolves closed in tighter, forcing her to stay. The Alpha tilted its head slightly, then circled her, brushing its metallic fur against her arm once more. The static sensation rushed through her body again, stronger this time. It wasn't pain. It felt like recognition. The wolves growled again, louder. The ground seemed to shake. But their growls weren't aimed at her. They were aimed at the forest beyond, where shadows moved. Her kidnappers had returned, bringing more with them. 5 armored aliens stepped into the clearing, weapons raised. Their eyes flicked nervously at the wolves, but desperation pushed them forward. They wanted the girl back. The Alpha let out a thunderous roar that silenced the night. The pack spread out instantly, their glowing eyes fixed on the intruders. The girl stood frozen as the aliens advanced. One shouted something in their harsh tongue and lunged forward, trying to grab her. But the Alpha struck first. Its massive jaws snapped shut on the alien's arm, tearing it away in a spray of sparks and blood. The others fired their weapons, beams of blue light flashing across the clearing. 2 wolves fell back, their bodies sparking, but they did not die. They rose again, shaking off the damage as if the weapons were nothing but rain. The pack charged. The clearing erupted into chaos, snarls, screams, weapons firing, trees splintering. The girl covered her ears, the sounds overwhelming, but she dared not move. She watched as the wolves tore through her captors with brutal precision, faster and deadlier than anything she had ever imagined. Within minutes, it was over. The aliens lay scattered, broken, and lifeless across the ground. The wolves circled back, returning to her side. Their breaths came out in heavy clouds, but none seemed hurt. Their glowing eyes burned brighter now, almost proud. The Alpha approached her again. This time, it lowered its massive head all the way to the ground, bowing before her. The rest of the pack followed, their hulking forms crouching low, eyes never leaving her. The girl's heart pounded so hard she thought it might burst. They weren't just protecting her, they were submitting to her. Her lips trembled as she whispered, more to herself than to them, "Why me?" But the wolves only stared, their silence heavy with meaning. That night, under the watch of the red-eyed beasts, the girl realized something impossible. The deadliest alien wolves in the galaxy had not killed her. They had chosen her, and the forest would never be the same again. The forest was silent after the battle. Smoke rose from the broken weapons scattered on the ground. The girl stood among the towering wolves, her breath still uneven from the chaos she had just witnessed. She looked at the glowing red eyes around her, expecting at any moment that they might turn on her. But they didn't. Instead, the wolves stood in a protective circle, their hulking forms like walls of living steel. The Alpha remained closest, its massive head lowered, watching her with an intensity that made her chest tighten. The girl had seen animals before: dogs, horses, even wild wolves in old recordings. But nothing like this. These creatures were different. They weren't just beasts. They understood her. She swallowed hard, trying to calm her shaking hands. "You saved me," she whispered, though she knew they couldn't understand words. Or maybe they could. The Alpha's ear twitched, and the beast let out a low sound, almost like a deep hum. The hum wasn't random. It reached into her chest, her head, her very thoughts. Once again, flashes came, quick visions, like dreams stitched together. She saw a forest burning, soldiers in strange armor, humans screaming as they were hunted. Then she saw a small figure, herself, standing unafraid before the Alpha. The girl stumbled back. "No, that can't be me," she whispered. But the Alpha only tilted its head, as if to say otherwise. She remembered her father's stories then. He used to tell her about ancient guardians hidden in the wild places of alien worlds, creatures made for war but bound to something older, something that couldn't be broken by science or weapons. She had always thought they were just stories to help her sleep. Yet here she was, standing in the middle of those very guardians. The wolves began to move. Slowly, carefully, they walked past her, brushing their massive bodies against her as they passed. One stopped and pressed its cold metallic snout into her small hand. The shock of static hit her again, but she didn't pull away. Instead, she let her fingers rest against it, feeling the strange mix of fur and armor beneath her palm. Her fear eased. Something deep inside told her these creatures weren't here to harm her. They had chosen her, though she still didn't know why. The night stretched on. The wolves led her deeper into the forest, past glowing plants and streams that shimmered under the moonlight. She stumbled often, her legs sore and weak, but every time she slowed, one of the wolves nudged her gently forward. They were guiding her somewhere. At last, they reached a wide stone clearing. Ancient carvings glowed faintly on the rocks, pulsing with light. The wolves spread out, their eyes reflecting the glow like living lanterns. The girl stood in the center, feeling small and lost. She turned to the Alpha. "What do you want from me?" she asked, her voice cracking. The Alpha stepped forward and let out another deep hum. This time, she didn't fight the images that flooded her mind. She saw the wolves again, but not as monsters. She saw them as creations, built by alien hands long ago, weapons designed to hunt humans during the old wars. But something had gone wrong. Deep inside their design, something had changed. Instead of destroying, they could choose. And now, they had chosen her. Tears burned at the edges of her eyes. She was just a child. She didn't want to be chosen. She wanted her family, her home, her old life back. But the wolves had no intention of letting her go. Suddenly, a branch snapped in the distance. The wolves stiffened, their red eyes flashing brighter. The girl spun around just in time to see a figure step out of the trees. It was another alien, but different from the ones who had taken her. This one wore a cloak of dark hide, and its weapon glimmered faintly with blue light. Its gaze was locked on her. The alien raised its weapon slowly, carefully, as though testing the wolves. The pack growled in unison, a sound so deep the stones beneath her feet seemed to vibrate. The alien didn't fire. Instead, it spoke in a low, rasping voice, its words thick but understandable. "So, it is true, the wolves have bonded to a human." The girl's blood turned cold. She didn't understand how this creature knew, but its words confirmed what she feared. This was bigger than her. The Alpha stepped closer to her, its body shielding her from the alien. The pack closed ranks, their growls filling the clearing. The alien lowered its weapon slightly, though its eyes burned with anger. "If they have chosen you, child, then every hunter in the galaxy will come. You are a danger, and a prize." Before the girl could reply, the alien vanished back into the trees, its cloak melting into the shadows. She stood frozen, her heart pounding. A prize, a danger. Hunters would come for her. The wolves gathered around her once more, and in that moment, she realized there was no turning back. She was no longer just a lost girl. She was the bondholder of the deadliest alien wolves in existence, and the galaxy was about to find out. The forest no longer felt safe. The girl could sense it with every step she took. The wolves walked beside her, silent and watchful, but even their presence could not erase the weight pressing on her chest. The cloaked alien's words echoed in her mind. Every hunter in the galaxy will come. The next days blurred together. The wolves guided her deeper into their lands, past rivers glowing with strange light, through ancient ruins half buried beneath roots and vines. She slept beneath their shadows, ate the wild fruit they nudged toward her, and drank from the streams they guarded. Each night, she dreamed of the visions the Alpha had shown her humans hunted, forests burning, her face standing against armies. She woke each time with her heart racing, wondering if it was prophecy or curse. The wolves stayed close. Sometimes she thought they whispered to her in the hums of their throats. When she placed her hand on the Alpha's metallic fur, she felt warmth, almost like a heartbeat, and with it came flashes of understanding. She realized the wolves were not just beasts. They were something in between, living weapons that had learned to choose. And now somehow she was the reason they had chosen to stop killing. But word traveled fast. She didn't know how, yet she felt it in the air. The forest grew restless. Birds scattered too quickly. Branches broke under heavy footsteps she never saw. The wolves snarled at shadows often, warning her that something was watching. Then one morning, she saw it with her own eyes. The sky above the forest split with fire as ships descended sleek hunters' craft, their hulls gleaming like knives. They landed at the forest's edge, their engines shaking the ground. From their bellies poured figures in dark armor, carrying weapons that hummed with deadly energy. They wore marks of mercenary clans, killers who hunted across the stars for pay. The girl's breath caught as she watched from the safety of the trees, hidden by her wolves. These were not the kidnappers who had taken her. These were worse. They were prepared. The Alpha growled low, and the pack bristled, their glowing eyes cutting through the shadows. The girl clutched at the Alpha's fur. She didn't need a vision to know what this meant. The hunters had come for her. That night, she listened to their voices from the distance. The mercenaries laughed around their fires, speaking in languages she barely understood. But some words reached her clear as day. The girl, alive. Reward. They weren't here to kill her. They were here to claim her, to take her away, maybe to dissect her, or worse, to use her bond with the wolves for themselves. The thought made her sick. The wolves seemed to sense her fear. They gathered close, pressing their cold bodies against her, their growls rolling through the night like thunder. The Alpha placed its head on the ground beside her, and once again, visions filled her mind. She saw herself standing at the front of the pack, commanding them with a word. She saw the mercenaries falling, the forest rising in defense. She saw fire, blood, and victory, but at a cost. She woke gasping, sweat on her face. For the first time, she realized the wolves were not only showing her visions, they were asking her to choose. To fight with them. To lead them. The next day, the mercenaries pushed deeper into the forest. They moved cautiously, weapons ready, their scanners lighting the ground. She watched from high rocks as they cut down trees, leaving trails of destruction behind. Her small fists clenched in anger. The Alpha stood at her side, its burning eyes fixed on her. She could feel the weight of its question pressing against her heart. Would she run? Or would she command them? She took a deep breath and whispered, "If we don't fight, they'll never stop." The Alpha let out a howl that split the air. The rest of the pack joined instantly, their voices echoing like a storm rolling over the land. The mercenaries below froze, their eyes wide, weapons raised. The wolves surged forward, melting into the shadows of the trees. The girl held her ground, her heart racing, her voice breaking into the night. "Go!" she cried, though they already knew. The forest erupted in chaos. Wolves leapt from the shadows, tearing through armor with impossible strength. Mercenaries screamed, firing wildly, their weapons flashing blue against black fur and steel. The girl stood on the rocks, her small frame glowing faintly with the reflected red of the wolves' eyes. One mercenary spotted her and broke from the fight, charging up the rocks to grab her. She stumbled back, fear gripping her. But before he could touch her, the Alpha slammed into him, crushing him against the stone. The girl pressed her hand against the Alpha's side, and the vision returned stronger than ever. She saw every Wolf, every strike, every move as if she was inside them. She gasped, realizing the truth. She wasn't just watching. She was guiding them. The mercenaries began to fall back, their leader shouting orders to retreat. The wolves pressed forward, relentless, driving them from the forest with blood and fury. When it was over, the girl stood among the panting pack, her chest heaving, her hands trembling. She had done nothing but speak, yet the wolves had listened. They had followed. The Alpha looked at her, its eyes glowing brighter than ever. The bond was no longer just protection. It was command. And as the girl stared at the fallen weapons scattered across the ground, she understood the danger clearer than ever. The mercenaries would return. More would come. The galaxy knew now the wolves had chosen a human child, and the hunt for her had only just begun. The sun never rose clearly over the forest again. Smoke from crashed ships and burned trees covered the sky in a permanent haze. The girl sat on a stone ledge with the Alpha at her side, staring at the broken weapons scattered below. The wolves had won the first fight, but she knew it was only the beginning. The mercenaries had fled, but not in silence. They had left signals, beacons pulsing red in the dirt. She didn't understand their language, but she understood the meaning well enough. They had called for reinforcements. The wolves sensed it too. They prowled the edges of the clearing, their red eyes glowing brighter than usual, their fur bristling. The air itself felt heavy, as though the forest was preparing for war. The girl whispered to the Alpha, her hand resting against its cold metallic hide. "They'll come again, stronger this time." The Alpha rumbled deep in its chest, and once more she saw the visions. An army of hunters flooding the forest, weapons blazing, the wolves charging to meet them. She saw herself at the center of it all, her voice guiding the pack like a general commands soldiers. She pulled away, gasping, her small chest tight. "I can't," she whispered. "I'm just a girl." But the Alpha leaned closer, pressing its great head against her shoulder. It was not a question. It was a demand. That night, the forest shook. Ships descended again, larger this time, their engines burning scars into the earth. From them poured soldiers in black armor, dozens, maybe hundreds, spreading out with practiced formation. Their weapons glowed with blue energy, humming with deadly power. The girl crouched among the rocks, hidden by the wolves. She could see them all. Hunters, mercenaries, warlords, different clans united by greed. She heard their voices echo through the trees. "Find the girl, take her alive. Kill the wolves." The Alpha raised its head and let out a long, piercing howl. The pack answered in unison, their cries rolling through the forest like thunder before a storm. The soldiers froze for a heartbeat, then raised their weapons. The battle began. The wolves surged from the shadows, faster than arrows, their massive bodies crashing into the soldiers with unstoppable force. Metal clashed with teeth, blue energy beams lit the night, trees splintered as fire spread. The girl pressed her back against the rocks, her hands gripping the stone, her heart pounding so hard it hurt. One wolf fell beside her, its body sparking as energy seared through its flank. The girl cried out and pressed her hand against it, without thinking. The vision came again. She saw through the wolf's eyes, saw the enemy lines, the fear in their faces. She gasped and whispered, "Get up." The wolf rose, snarling, its wounds glowing faintly red as if the command itself had given it strength. It leapt back into the fight. She realized then her bond wasn't just command, it was power. The wolves were stronger when she stood with them. The soldiers advanced, shields locking into formation, weapons spitting fire. The wolves slammed against them, but their armor held. For a moment, it seemed the pack might break. The girl climbed onto the Alpha's back, clutching its fur tight. Her small voice cut through the battle as she screamed, "Forward!" The Alpha roared, and the wolves obeyed. They struck as one, tearing through the formation with savage precision. Soldiers fell, their lines broken. The pack moved like a single body, as if her will guided every strike, but the enemy was endless. More poured from the ships, carrying heavier weapons, firing into the trees. Explosions ripped through the ground, tearing apart roots and stone. The girl ducked low, her ears ringing, her eyes stinging from smoke. She thought they would be overrun. But then, something strange happened. The forest itself seemed to awaken. The ground trembled as hidden caves split open. From them came more. Wolves, larger and older, their eyes glowing with deeper fire. Dozens, maybe hundreds, emerging from places no human had ever seen. The soldiers shouted in panic as the new pack joined the battle. The night sky lit up with fire and red eyes. The girl raised her voice again, not knowing how but certain of what to say. "Drive them back!" The wolves answered, their howls merging with the crackle of fire and the crash of weapons. The soldiers faltered, their courage breaking under the storm of teeth and steel. Some tried to flee, but the pack hunted them down without mercy. By dawn, the ground was littered with broken armor and shattered weapons. The forest smelled of smoke and blood. The hunters had been destroyed, but at a cost. Many wolves lay silent among the trees, their glowing eyes dim. The girl slid from the alpha's back, her legs trembling as she walked among them. She knelt beside the fallen, tears streaking her dirty face. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I didn't want this." The alpha stood tall above her, its eyes burning, its breath steady. It nudged her gently with its massive head, as if to say this was not her fault. This was fate. The girl wiped her tears, her small hands curling into fists. She understood now. The wolves were no longer just guardians. They were an army. And she was their leader. But deep inside, she feared the cloaked alien's warning was true. The hunters had been only the beginning. The galaxy would come for her. The forest was quiet again, but the silence was heavy with loss. Smoke curled from the ground where alien weapons had torn deep scars into the earth. The girl stood among the fallen wolves, her small hands clenched at her sides, her eyes burning with tears. She wanted to believe the battle was over, but deep inside, she knew it was not. The alpha paced beside her, its massive body gleaming in the faint light. Its eyes glowed brighter than ever, but even it seemed restless. The girl placed her hand against its fur, and the visions returned. She saw a sky filled with ships far more than before. She saw soldiers, machines, weapons large enough to flatten entire forests. The hunters had lost, but now an army was coming. She staggered back, her chest tight. "We can't fight them all," she whispered. The alpha lowered its head, pressing its massive snout into her shoulder. The meaning was clear. We will fight anyway. And so they prepared. The wolves gathered by the hundreds, pouring from hidden dens and caves across the forest. The ground itself seemed alive with their movement, their glowing eyes forming rivers of red in the shadows. The girl stood at their center, a fragile figure surrounded by a storm of living weapons. The sky darkened as the army arrived. Great ships blotted out the stars, their engines roaring, their shadows stretching across the land. They landed in waves, their hulls splitting open to release soldiers in black armor. Machines followed towering constructs with claws of steel and cannons burning with blue light. The girl's knees trembled, but she stood tall. She climbed onto the alpha's back, clutching its fur as the pack howled in unison. The sound rolled across the forest, a wall of thunder that shook the ground. The army answered with fire. Explosions tore through the trees, turning night into day. The wolves surged forward, faster than shadows, slamming into the soldiers with unstoppable force. The forest became a battlefield of screams, roars, and fire. The girl's voice rose above it all. "Strike!" she cried, and the wolves obeyed. They moved like one body, tearing through armor, scattering machines, driving the soldiers back step by step. But the enemy was endless. For every soldier that fell, more poured from the ships. For every machine destroyed, 2 more appeared. The wolves fought bravely, but even their strength began to falter. The girl felt it through the bond, the weight of exhaustion, the pain of wounds, the despair creeping into their hearts. Her own heart broke. She pressed her forehead against the Alpha's head, tears streaking her face. "We can't win," she whispered. "There are too many." But the Alpha growled deep, and the visions returned. This time they were different. She saw herself glowing, surrounded by the wolves, their red eyes burning brighter than ever. She saw them merging, not in body, but in spirit. One will. One force. She gasped as the meaning struck her. They weren't just her pack. They were her. The Alpha roared, and the wolves answered. Their eyes flared with blinding light, their bodies trembling as energy surged through them. The girl cried out as the same power flooded into her, burning but not hurting, filling her with strength far beyond her small body. The wolves moved as one. The girl raised her hand, and a wave of red fire burst from the pack, slamming into the enemy like a storm. Soldiers screamed as their weapons shattered. Machines crumbled, their steel torn apart by an unseen force. The ground itself shook as the forest rose in fury. The army faltered. For the first time, they broke. The soldiers who had marched in with such certainty now turned to flee. The machines staggered back, their glowing cores flickering. The ships above roared as they lifted off, retreating into the smoke-filled sky. When the last of them had gone, the girl collapsed against the Alpha, her chest heaving, her body weak. The light faded from the wolves' eyes, but they stood tall, their breaths steady. Around them, the battlefield was silent. The impossible had happened. A child had stood against an army and won. The wolves gathered close, their massive forms kneeling around her. The Alpha lowered its head until its burning eyes met hers. She placed her hand against it, her voice trembling. "It's over," she whispered. The vision came one last time. She saw herself not as a frightened child, but as a figure standing tall, surrounded by the wolves. She saw generations ahead, whispers of her name carried across the stars. The Wolf Child, the one who had turned death into life, who had made the deadliest beasts in the galaxy kneel. Tears filled her eyes, but this time they weren't just of fear. They were of strength. She understood now. She was not prey. She was not a victim. She was their leader. As dawn finally broke, the first rays of sunlight pierced through the smoke. The wolves lifted their heads and howled, their voices echoing into the sky. The girl stood among them, small but unshaken, her face lit by the golden light. The galaxy had hunted her. The galaxy had feared her. But now, the galaxy would remember her. The legend of the Wolf Child had begun.